Welcome to the open view. Open view may pull up a chair.
There's a blue one. Harrigan and Bill are having a go. Standing there, trading one.
A new documentary, Frackman, shares Dane's 5-year battle against the coal seam gas industry.
Bill of fragment snarks. This is the open view.
Welcome to the Oaken View.
We're
back
night.
with the 4 light horsemen after the Farah by-election, and I think some people may have been shocked by the result. I know I'm not. I thought it was a pretty 2-horse race that we all thought was going to happen, but it ends up we have a One Nation has made history, and they have their first lower house seat. For people that don't know, the Farah by-election was triggered because Susan Ley threw the towel in on the Liberal Party after she was unscrupulously taken out.
Unceremoniously.
That'll work. Unfairly taken out by Angus Taylor. And so it sent the Farah electorate into a by-election. And here we are. Gentlemen, what do we think? What happened? Who wants to jump in first? Because I know everyone's like...
I'm going to sound like a naive inner-city suburbanite here, but I think I don't see what all the fuss is about. It was a Conservative seat. It's been held by the Libs since 1949. A Conservative area voted to be a bit more conservative. Albury voted for Millthorpe, the independent, but to me, I don't know, just seems like a bit of a pretty predictable outcome, to be honest. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I thought Millthorpe could have had a good chance. I think she did have a good swipe at it, but I think the two-party preferred, it was, if you're looking at two-party preferred, it was a bit of a slacking on my numbers. I had 57% to One Nation and 43 to Millthorpe. So that's a convincing win. Do we know what the primary vote ended up being? Has everyone got those numbers?
Still being counted, but from what I last checked a couple of hours ago, Millthorpe did receive more votes than she did in the last election, which is interesting. She's increased her majority or her, voter count, which is quite interesting.
So would that be fair to say then that because Labor didn't run, what the votes? Does it look like the votes from Labor went across to Millthorpe?
Could I need to do some more analysis on that, but.
Early days yet.
Yeah.
I think that the actual preferencing of One Nation by the Liberals and the Nationals actually improved the One Nation's primary vote. I think that what it did was people that were tossing up 50-50, when they saw the Libs and the Nats preferencing One Nation, they said, well, if they're preferencing, they can't be that bad. So they actually voted that way. It was, what do they call it? Permission to vote. The big thing with it is that this is going to be a test of One Nation because, first of all, they've got to keep Farley, in the tent. And he's diametrically opposed to the One Nation philosophy on a couple of issues, immigration, climate change, that sort of thing. If he leaves, it will damage them hugely because it's been said they can't keep a party together, which is true. But I had this discussion with Gerks earlier in the day. I think that the more destructive thing would be because One Nation can't allow him to leave, because image-wise, they will have to expand their umbrella to keep him under there. And that's gonna burn. The term I used on something I put out was it's gonna burn a lot of internal capital. It's gonna take them places that they don't want to be. And you've got to remember, with One Nation, you are not dealing, despite what everyone thinks, you are not dealing with Pauline Hanson. You're dealing with James Ashby.
I think we all agree on that. Does everyone agree on that?
Well, I came to this realisation on the night of the election. I saw the footage of when Ashby had kicked out the ABC staff and Pauline.
Can I just jump in there just quickly for anyone that doesn't know? The ABC, the One Nation had a facility. It was wherever it was. It was where they were holding a press conference, and James Ashby, which is a power broker behind the scenes of One Nation, escorted the ABC out. And Pauline Hanson herself, and I'll back Pauline on this one. Here you go. I agree with Pauline Hanson. Said, "Why are they going? I don't think this is right." So just to give you a little bit of context. Sorry, Gerks, head on, mate.
I agree entirely. She was the reasonable person in the room for that moment, and she was just told by Ashby, almost like, it surprised me to see almost how frail she was in that situation where she didn't have a say and she was just a passenger, and it was It's like taking your nan for scones or something. It really.
He's
Graham?
the puppet master.
Graham,
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
well, historically, you know, when a good friend of mine resurrected One Nation, and I'll mention her name because it's on the public record. Her name's Soraya Berrick, and
Her address. We'll go and get.
yeah, she's been on the news. She's been on, you know, news channels back in the day when it happened. She resurrected One Nation virtually single-handedly. So I just want you to remember and just frame this up as the amount of effort that would have been involved from her part to get a person who hadn't been elected in nearly, I don't know, 2 decades or whatever the case may be when she got out of prison. She dusted it off. She built the websites. She set up the social media campaigns. She got everything moving. That girl literally got her re-elected. It's on public record. And
That's interesting.
within a very short period of time, within a couple of weeks, somehow Ashby had wormed his way in and removed her. Right? It's all on the public record. And there was another gentleman, I can't remember his name, but there was some infighting. They all got thrown out. I think one of them referred to Ashby as a maggot on record. I'm actually doing an op-ed on it. And that was the start of, you know, he's the person who has the Queen's ear. He's running the show unequivocally, without doubt. He is the brains of the operation. He runs everything. He's got his hands on all the levers. It's one of the reasons why there's so much carnage, why people who do get elected under One Nation is a litany of carcasses along the way who have left. Brian Burston, is one. You know, when they had the double dissolution election, Julia Gillard, there was like, what is there, 3 elected. They all left. Fraser Anning, Rob Cullerton, right? She can't hang on to these guys because of the alleged narcissistic sociopath behind the scenes, right? That's what it's all about. That's why I believe that flip-flopping Charlie Farley, he's not going to be there that long because I believe he's used One Nation as a vehicle. He's looked at One Nation and said, you know what? I'm going to parasite this. I'm gonna lock onto the leg like a leech, and I'm going to use their firepower and their name to get me over the line. And I know this because I know people that have done it, right? When I used to work on election campaigns behind the scenes. That's what they do. It's like, hey, this guy's got a big budget. They can throw some cash my way. They can help, you know, with the signs, with the how to vote cards, with all that stuff, the volunteers. I'm just going to lock on, use One Nation to get me over the line. And once I do, I just go independent, right?
Well,
I've
betting
had-
odds have pretty much marked that he goes independent, and the highest odds at the moment are within 3 to 6 months. So
Look, I've had experience with Ashby in the past too. And to be honest, the first thing he'll do is threaten legal action with anyone. I had an incident with a One Nation individual where I had to actually go to the police to stop nuisance phone calls late at night. And obviously, what would you term it? Extremely tired. Barnaby Joyce type tired, if you know what I mean. But I had a transcript, the whole lot. In a state election, I literally said that I could not support someone that had had to apologise to the Parliament on 2 occasions, which was their candidate. I then got a text saying, do you want our lawyers to contact your lawyers or you directly? My reply was, I look forward to it, whichever way you'd like to do it. I have the transcripts. Are you ready for this? And I never heard another thing. What I'm saying is, within that party, that will be the sort of pushing, and it's an overused term, but bullying that goes on.
Were you talking about the candidates, or was it actually Ashby that had the problem in the election?
No, it was he was actually a sitting member. I literally had phone calls late at night, a dozen phone calls, any number of texts, right through to 1 a.m. And I kept saying, stop this, stop it, stop it. At the time, I didn't know how to block a phone number. Do now. I actually went to the police the next day. I said, this has got to stop. The cop said, let me speak to him. Don't put in a formal complaint. I regret to this day I didn't put in the formal complaint. But it stopped. Then months later, leading up to the election, I posted and said, I cannot possibly support someone, which I was talking about candidates, that has been forced to apologise to the Parliament on 2 occasions. That's all I said. And then I got the threat.
The triggering. Yeah. I think it's pretty fair to say they've lost literally 70% of or every person that's been elected at One Nation has, 70% of them left. And it really does sit after seeing Ashby in action, watching that really, I think is it censorship? Is it poor behaviour? I'm not sure. It's very Trumpish, in my
Trump to a
view.
T.
It is Trump to a T. And it seems like it's MAGA first and Australia last, because I value what the ABC have to say, as I value what the Sydney Morning Herald has to say and the Age, and I want to hear all these perspectives. And taking one out shows that they're trying to hide something, or they have something to hide that they don't want uncovered with a hard question.
That's right. I think even Pauline said, but they're regional or they're from Albury. And Ashby replied, well, they're going to go back to Canberra and report to them anyway, so it doesn't matter. And it's just this weird, MAGA paranoia.
I actually am
Can I just
heartened.
say, I've never ever had a fucking moment since I've been doing this where someone hasn't jumped in to speak.
We're all trying to be good.
We're just being cautious. That's it.
Everyone's trying to be polite. Because we get the
Everyone's
comments
about us
going.
talking over each other.
Everyone's like, Bella and Dane talk too much, and so I'm trying to throw to Graham, and I'm trying to throw to.
I'm
and that was the
shy.
first. Everyone's like gun shy, like. Great job, fellas.
Yeah.
We do listen to the comments and we do read them when we possibly can, and we do enjoy them. So anyway, hey, if you haven't, make sure you like and subscribe and comment on the video. But sorry, what did you say, Bella?
I'll shoot something out there and the boys can comment on it. I read today that, and it gives me heart, because apparently the rank and file of the Liberal Party is really not happy with that whole preferencing thing, because they've spoken about preferencing in the federal election as well. And they have blown up and said it is a complete desertion of Liberal values, who the Liberals should be. They should be a centre-right party, and Labor's the centre-left as such. And they said, you can't out One Nation. So the kickback from the rank and file, to me, says that they're not happy with that shift and they want the Libs to come back. That makes me feel good.
I think the Liberal Party at the moment are undergoing what I call the cigarette dilemma. So they're bitten on one end and they've been set alight on the other. And so on one side, you've got One Nation cheering on the regional and outer suburban right, older voters, people frustrated, people that feel ignored. That's genuine. And they want to send, Canberra a flaming bag of something. And on the other side, you've got the Teals burning through the old Liberal seats, professionals, inner city, climate conscious voters, and, the myth that the Liberals used to be, the sensible economic managers. And so it's a trap for them either way. So if they choose to chase One Nation, they lose more of the moderates to the Teals. And if they try to tack back to the centre, they bleed more angry Conservatives to One Nation. Because if you look at Farah, it's a part of the story, but it was technically a Liberal seat, but demographically it looks like it should have been a Nationals seat. So I don't know, it may end up just being a coalition of seat swapping and this and that. But they need to realise the cigarette's burning, and they need to figure out a way to, they need to pick a side. I think they should just focus on the Teals and try to win that side back, and just let One Nation do One Nation, as they do when they're in power.
Graham?
Yeah, they're definitely caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think a lot of it stems historically from the debacle of having three different prime ministers, in their last decade. It was, people were reminiscent of the Howard years, the Menzies years, the Fraser years. They weren't used to this disarray and chaos, mismanagement over COVID, the national debt, adding $700 billion, and all the dodgy stuff going on with security contractors on Nauru and all that stuff. I mean, they weren't used to that. That's the opposite of conservatism to a lot of people. And I think that's carried over. And the base is lost. Obviously, Hanson's got her niche, which is, discriminatory racism, stop the boats, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if Tony Abbott had stayed in, they'd probably be all right? One Nation might not have flourished, because there's a certain element that wants that hard line approach to everything. And going on from Girks, like with the Teals, where does the Liberal Party go now? It's like someone's taken their heart, their lung and their kidney and spread it to 4 corners of the earth. And Angus Taylor, my God, if he's the answer, you got to really ask what's the question. You know, is there anyone with any element of charisma, of stature left in the party? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem to be anyone there that represents strength or has a position of, you know, I really believe in what I'm saying. You know, they're just telling people what they want to hear. They're literally looking at their ship going down at a great rate of knots, and they're just bailing water at the moment. And whether they come out of it or not, I don't know. I mean, Barnaby Joyce jumped, you know, he's jumping for a reason. Whether One Nation will... I mean, well, the Liberal Party came out today, I think, and they said, no way, not ever, never, never are we going to form a coalition with One Nation. They drew a line in the sand today, I think.
Is that? I don't think there's any way forward for the Liberal Party unless they come back to that centre right. I just can't see sensible, educated people abandoning the Liberal Party and heading over to One Nation. That is not their home. It is not. They're generally educated people. I'm not saying anything about One Nation voters. Let's get this straight off the bat. One Nation voters are pissed. I'm pissed, and we deserve to be pissed, right? But, you know, what is it? Cut your nose off to spite your face. That's kind of what One Nation is. But I think Andrew Hastie, I had some hope, but he comes out with this crazy, we're going to burn coal to make diesel kind of crazy stuff. Instead of, you know, they're going to have some soul searching to do. And I don't think the next election cycle is enough. I think Labor's potentially a shoo-in, could be a shoo-in, might not be, right? Not be. And I think people can put, you know, shit on Albo all they want, but I reckon he dropped that inland rail just before this election on purpose because he wanted to drop a bomb within that whole argument because, you know, the inland rail, that was pork barreling at its best. I'm going to do a post on it the next couple of days because I've been reading a lot about it today. And yeah, it was pork barreling at best. And the funny thing is, the one behind it was Barnaby Joyce.
Can you tell me about the inland rail? Because I'm not familiar with it, and for our listeners that might
pretty much. Well, we'll cover it more in depth later. But pretty much, it was an inland rail that was supposed to run, you know, basically inland. And what it did was it took all these weird bypasses into National Party seats, right? That didn't make economic sense. So it blew out to $45 billion. And
from 16 billion.
From 16 billion,
just
right?
a tiny blowout.
Right.
Wow.
But the routes stopped making sense unless you looked at who was going to benefit from that, and that was National Party electorate. So they basically killed their own golden horse, which, you know, we need rail. Rail's a good thing. And I don't think I don't think they should give up on it. But the problem is where it's going to end now. It's hard to pick it up and move it where it needs to go. So the National Party has pork barreled Australia into this white elephant rail network that we actually need that is not fit for purpose. And I'm not sure, you know, I don't think Albo did that on you know, dropped that then on, you know, by accident. He was like saying, here you go, here's your white elephant. Any Liberal Party or anyone who has anything to do with the inland rail or has looked into it at all can see it. It's plain as day. And Barnaby Joyce is behind a lot of it. It's Barnaby Joyce's baby.
It's quintessentially Australian, isn't it, to try to have a large project like that and just completely bungle it and blow it out and probably get people to build it who have never built a rail before. It's just...
When you said that you don't think that one cycle's enough for the Libs to win, totally agree. I actually think, like when you've said, you know, what are they going to do? They're in a mess and whatever. And I actually think that what they've got to do is jump off the bus that's going over the cliff. Like, if you stick with it, you bug it. Go back to the centre. You might lose some votes at first and say, this is what we stand for. Doesn't matter what the others are doing. This is who we are. Because can people actually answer the question at the moment? If you were to say to someone, what are the Liberals? Wouldn't have a clue. For good reason. Because I don't think the Liberals have any idea. Now, we'll go back to a coaching analogy. If you get a new side, you know, young blokes together, your first season is not about winning games. It's about teaching them to play the game. And then the wins come. You know, who are they? What can they do? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? People then start to recognise that. Second year, all of a sudden your focus switches. Well, even late in the first year, you know what they're capable of. You want to start winning. That's what the Liberal Party needs to do. Like, chuck out those old players, bring in those new ones. You're going to cop a certain amount of pain, but it's going to pay off if you go the right way. But I'll tell you another little interesting thing. I do a little bit of myth busting on memes, and there's a great one where they're having a go at Albanese. And I will say here and now that the sensible centre, like me, I am not pro any party. Despite what everyone says, I am not. I judge actions and words of whomever, all right? I'm not interested in the far right. You know, they're not even playing the game. One Nation, they don't get on that court. So I'm sick of people saying just because you're saying that Albo's done this right or whatever, you're for Labor. Well, it's pretty hard to say the Liberals have done anything decent at the moment, have they? And for me, I am harder on mine. I want to see the Liberals back, but they've got to reach a standard to get back. But anyway, I went through 10 points against Albanese, you know, highest this, highest that, highest. Went to ABS, hunted up the data. On most of those things, it was just utter
We lost
bullshit.
Bella there.
On others, yeah, they were right, but there were very good reasons for it. Context was everything.
Context
Now,
matters.
it's interesting. Not one of the respondents, obviously, had a lot of my people, got on there. They discussed, they talked, they debated. And then we got the, not bots, just the, what I call the bullshit mob that come on. Not one actually debated a point. Not one of them. Every one of them, oh, you're a Labor bloke, or you're this, or you're, you know,
Get it
you're
all the
anti-One
time.
Nation. Not one. And I'm talking a couple of hundred. There was no one, and that is the problem generally, I believe, with the Australian electorate. And I'm not just saying One Nation. We don't actually, when we're told something, we just take it in. We don't go and check. And it's so easy now, so easy to go and check. Go and just Google it, get your, and then go and look at the sites. You go one step again, and you can all of a sudden know something. But I will say categorically, I've said it many times, if you share a lie, you are a liar. Simple as that.
I'm just going to jump in quickly. When I said the inland rail and it runs inland was a really poor description.
Nice. It's all right.
A friend runs from Brisbane to Melbourne, right? And it goes out through on the Condamine floodplain out. That was David Littleproud's electorate. And it's kind of like there's got some whole dodgy stuff. But anyway, we'll cover that in another episode. I just started laughing at myself.
For everyone that's
Again,
happy
when-
about it, for everyone that was happy about it out there were about, 2 that weren't because of where it ran, how it was going to backwater up and things like that. It was really problematic.
When you're talking about Australian infrastructure, the clue's not always in the name, and you need to be very explicit as to what it is. So there are lots of projects that where what their name represents.
Snowy
Like
2.0.
Troom Trough.
Broom trough, not in
Nowhere
Troom.
near Troom.
So I think we've raised some really good points there on how they're going to get back. But looking at One Nation, I think what you've got is that they're similar to the Greens. They've got this cultish kind of following, 10 to 13%. Would that be a fair assessment? And then the rest of them are sort of coming in and out. It looks like that there wasn't a whole lot of gain on the Conservative side. It was more just an abandonment of the Liberal Party and just moving over to One Nation. Is everyone in agreement there?
It's part
you jump in.
protest. Sorry, mate. It's part protest vote. Obviously, they feel like they needed a home to go to, and as Gerks was saying, it is a Conservative seat, so not surprising that they've gravitated there. And let's not forget the mainstream media and the role that they've been playing. Like the latest I just saw now in my electorate here, near Penrith, they're saying that One Nation could win that seat because it's considered the bellwether for who wins the national election, right? But it's actually been wrong twice now in the last 70 years or whatever. Yeah, and reporters are walking around on the streets saying, there's potential that One Nation could win this seat in the next election. I'm just like, these guys are amplifying it because they obviously need to sell advertising space and they've got to create controversy. It's like, here we go again. That does have a significant effect on voters, without a doubt. Murdoch knows
Certainly
this better
does,
than
Graham.
anyone.
100%.
You hit on something really important there. I think the advertising, Graham, is you've nailed it, right? That is where these allegiances or where the news runs now is with whoever's got the money to advertise. And we know who's got the money to advertise. We know when we see Stuart Bond splashed across the Newcastle Herald, it's not a story. It's a paid advertising campaign, and people don't know how that works. I've been part of them. I know that when I was doing stuff, I was splashed across the papers, and it was all simply because that there was advertising going within that media group. It has nothing to do with news anymore and everything to do with who's got the money. And that's why the ABC are important, because they don't care. The SBS don't care. They've got no skin in the game there. And that's why the public broadcaster, like them or not, it's important.
Well, just to elaborate on what you're saying, you imagine if a journalist went out there, and what you've got to realise, there aren't too many senior journalists nowadays. There's a lot of, especially in the country, they're kids. It's just the way it is. There's bugger all resource. Like, we don't even have an editor here in Mackay. It's edited in Rockhampton, that sort of thing. So there's not a lot of political experience. Even in council, they don't read an agenda, but they want to comment on meetings, and so there's no depth. But if you think about it, if they were to come there and say to their bosses, oh, well, everything's good, so many are going to vote for Labor, so many are going to vote for the Libs, and this many are going to vote for One Nation, no one's going to buy the paper. No one's going to advertise in a paper that no one's buying. It literally is. We've said it many times, and you said it, but like Dane, but it needs to be reinforced. They need drama. If you want to sell something, drama. If you look at the reality TV shows, they start a fight. They want to increase ratings, start a fight. This is what this is all about. The problem is they're making money, but in actual fact, our society, our community is being torn apart. It literally is. And that's why I'm so offended.
Gerks?
Good politics is boring. Good policy is mundane. It is. I've been reading the budget today. It is mind-numbing. It's not fun.
Sorry, you what?
It's.
You've been reading the budget?
I've been reading the budget today. I got a sneak peek at it. Anyway, sorry, just stuck that in. I'll be doing a post about that bit later. But anyway, yeah, it's boring. It's mundane. It's more exciting to have these sensational claims that, I don't know, like just headlines about just nonsense. I won't even recite any. But yeah, just touching on a previous point though that G-Man made, it's interesting around the demographics. I won't bore with numbers and things. I've been looked into the demographics following the South Australia election and the seats that went to One Nation. It's very reminiscent and similar to the Farah situation, who's voting for them and where they're from, and there was no real shift. There's nobody really from the centre or the left, quote unquote, that has voted for One Nation. It's moving around the existing chairs already on that deck. And so you can quote me on it, but I'm happy to be corrected. But the demographic that voted for One Nation in South Australia and down in Nepean last week and this time in Farah, that demographic represents 12% of the Australian population. So it'll be interesting to see how that manifests between now and the next federal election.
Can you give us a quick dive into those numbers? I think it'd be pretty interesting.
I can. My phone's
Do you have them?
died. My phone's died. I don't have them.
Throwing you on the spot.
I did a post on it. So I did a post yesterday on the Farah elections, and for those listening, we don't have exit poll data, so it's a secret ballot. So I don't know that Martin voted for who, but you can look at the ABS data. You look at the actual electoral data on what constituents voted what, and then you can sort of triangulate based on polling as well. So, but it was so similar to the South Australia situation where those 3 or 4 seats were won. It was staggering. So I had to double check. The only thing that Farah was missing that South Australia had was what was surprising in South Australia had a really high portion of non-tertiary educated people earning over 200,000 voting for One Nation. And so I don't know what that demographic necessarily is. People have explained to me that it's basically people in mining or engineers here and there. I don't know, but that segment doesn't exist in the Farah election. Looking it up, they don't really have much mining to speak of. But I just want to emphasise as well, I don't like this sort of notion of if you're not educated, you're more likely to vote for One Nation. I know very intelligent people, lots of intelligent people that don't have any education, and I know plenty of idiots that are very have lots of letters after their names and lots of degrees and things. So I just wanted to spell that side of things. But yeah, but I'll do a post, or perhaps we can share some of the screenshots on this segment.
Interesting.
Did you want
Tell
to
you
say
what,
anything?
you're right though about good politics is boring again. And I've probably used more sporting analogies in these last couple of podcasts than I've used for 30 years. But a good game, no one mentions the referee, do they? You know, they talk about the two sides. As soon as it's a shit game, the referee is to blame for everything. And politics is the same. When things are going well, no one praises the government. But when things aren't good, the government is expected to fix everything. And a lot of those things are offshore. We can't do anything about it. Like, let's be honest. People are voting for Pauline Hanson because they want things to change. All right? They want an improvement in things. Pauline Hanson is doing the same, like the plane and everything like that, as everyone else is doing. That's the argument they use. My reply is, but you wanted change. The other thing is, if you want an improvement in this country, the biggest impact we've currently got is caused by Trump. Who supports Trump?
Graham.
Well played. I love the guy. I love it. She's
Is
political.
that on your hat there, mate? Is that criticism or is that like an achievement?
Their rookie
both,
number is
mate.
only 34.
Go for 35.
I mean, look, the fact that she, you know, I'm sure you guys saw the, you know, the party footage down there, and you know, there was a lot of Hanson supporters wearing their "Make Australia Great Again" hats. Like they're not embarrassed by it. They think it's great, and yeah, it's all right because that's, you know, that's her niche. I just wanted to add too. I mean, both of you guys have touched base on, you know, the electorate, the voters, and the education levels and whatnot. I think it comes down to, it doesn't matter if they can read or write. It doesn't matter if they're a doctor or a lawyer. It comes down to their level of confirmation bias, and also some people, a lot of people, let's face it, like millions and millions of people, probably 99% of the population aren't as heavily invested into politics like our current audience and you guys are. So we're looking at the pros and cons every day. You know, we're getting bits of information. Like even Trump has a good thing or two every now and again, right? That I go, you know what, I kind of agree with that. There's some stuff in Hanson's policies that I kind of agree with, you know, some things in there. But I've got to look at everything from a factual standpoint and go, well, if that did happen, then what? You know, and could she? Is it possible? There's all those things, right? Obviously, for me, I probably might have a bit of confirmation bias because I realise that she's just a massive grifter, right? But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there about also, too, an interesting story about, well, I might as well say it, a friend of mine, Glenn Drury, the preference whisperer. Many years ago, he rang me up one day. He's like, mate, he goes, Darren Hinch just rang me. I'm like, Hinch? He's like, yeah, he wants me to come down to Melbourne. I go, what do you think it's all about? He goes, I don't know. I said, I haven't got a clue. So he gets down to the studio and, you know, Hinch is doing his show. He was telling me about the theatre of politics, the theatre. And he was obviously the interviewer, and he had a Liberal guy and a Labor guy. I can't remember their names, who were state Victorian MPs or whatever, right? And he said, now, before the cameras went on, he's like, now, I'm going to go after you for this, right? I'm really going to hit you really hard, right? So don't get too, yeah, no worries, I can take it, right? We've got to ramp it up for the cameras. Cameras come on, next minute, yeah, but what about this policy here that you said? It was like this sort of big dust up. Then the cameras went off and they're like, oh, that was really good, that was really good. Drury turns around and goes, mate, those two guys are actually in business together. I'm like, you serious? He goes, mate, it's all a show. I said, understand, mate, it's all a show, right? He said, the cameras come on and you get to see what you get to see. And it turns out after the show, that's when Hinch propositioned him to say, hey, can you help me win a seat in the Victorian election, which he did. No, in the national election, got him elected nationally as a senator. I think he got a 3-year stint, right? And I don't think he got re-elected after that. But that's what goes on. You don't get to see it. They get to see it. We don't get to see it. Obviously, there's elements of seriousness in there and everything else, but there's a lot of theatre, guys, right? Don't always believe everything that you see is what I'm trying to say.
I heard Douglas Murray, a UK commentator, say previously that he had a debate with Labor and UKIP sort of politicians, etc., and they were grilling him about various positions he was taking, and he was quite heated. And then after the debate, behind stage as they were walking, the Labor MP tapped him on the shoulder and said, well done, Douglas, just remember we're all with you. And he said, you're all with me. What was that out on stage? And the MP said, well, you know, I can't admit that on stage. My constituencies won't like that. And so it just was a real eye opener that it is just, you've got the theatre of it all in one regard, and then you've got, just And I think maybe that's some of the appeal to originally with Trump, maybe to some extent with Pauline. I don't find Pauline anywhere near as engaging as a communicator as Trump is or was, but you got this sense that you're getting a bit of an inside look of things. When Trump's going on some ramble about how someone came to him and brought him a newspaper in the White House, you get this kind of almost like this access or this feeling of, oh, I didn't know it worked like that. And so it's all part of the appeal, I think.
I think
You're,
Pauline doesn't nearly have the Pauline does not have the charisma of Trump, and I think her I think she stutters a fair bit, and she really struggles getting a good coherent sentence out, and really struggles articulating herself. And the minute she's pressured, she goes to water. And to be honest, anytime any of these people are pressured, they go to water, and that's what's going to happen. That's what people need to that's what One Nation and One Nation supporters need to realize, that the pressure is now on. If they are number 2, apparently, in the country, the official opposition, they are going to be scrutinised, and so they should be. We scrutinised Labor, we scrutinised the Liberal Party, we scrutinised the National Party and the Greens. One Nation, you're in the sights, right? And
give me some costed policies.
give us some costed policies. At the end of the day, they are not going to like the scrutiny that they are under. We've seen it from the South Australian elected, the MPs that have been elected in South Australia. Where are they? They've just disappeared. They haven't done a press conference. And it's why?
7 weeks in, haven't heard from them. Yeah.
Because they can't. They can't speak in public, and they aren't able to articulate the policies that the party is going to be following, state or federal. This is going to end up in a big bung fight, and that's why the tone has been set. We're going to remove journalists that we think are going to pressure us, and that is not only a message to us that they're well and truly in control, it's a message to the media that you will be friendly to us, or we will remove you from even speaking to us. And I think that's dangerous.
I think you've been a bit harsh, like the South Australian MPs. One of them's busy cutting hair, a couple of k's away. Like, God, what do you expect her to do? Actually go to Parliament? What's this about?
Hairdressers are bloody smart. I went out with a hairdresser.
I will say I do like the way that she had responded to that. She embraced the meme, and she did a bit of a TikTok video about it. And I don't agree with her, and I think the whole situation is nonsense. But she could have either had a public meltdown or embraced the meme, and she embraced the meme. And I just admire her. Just a little silly on that. So
good on her. Graham raised a good point, though. When you're talking about the theatre, and you mentioned it, Gerks, too. Like, anyone with half a brain would know that goes on. This is why I've said to people for a long time now, you need to make your politics local. You need to make a point of going to see your MP. Like, send enough emails, demand even a 10-minute meeting, and actually get a response to some questions that are important to you. Not the party response. What do you stand for? Because ultimately, the problem is if we're voting for the leader, the MP, all they've got to be is a good bloke or a good Sheila, and they say, oh, look, I tried my best, but that's what the party wants to do. Imagine if you put enough pressure on that MP, you and all your friends, and they went down to Canberra, and the party leader says, oh, what we're going to do is this. And old mate's there going, like hell we are. If I do that, I'm out at next election. You're going to earn your hundreds of thousands. I'm not going to get squat. I'm going back to working in the local, solicitors, accountants,
hairdressers,
hardware store, whatever. That is the way to influence politics.
So what you're saying, Bella, is we should get a convoy to Canberra together. Sorry.
You are not in any way funny with that. Seriously.
I have no part of that.
Hey, what do you want me to bring me truck and put your pickle jar on the back?
We need lots of Eureka Stockade flags. And it's going to be different to the last one.
Apparently there's a whole lot from a couple of years ago that aren't getting used much anymore.
Yeah.
They're cheap.
Graham, you're going to say something?
I was going to say, going off the back of Bell's there, like Dutton, he didn't get the memo, right? Look what happened to him.
No.
So it is possible.
Well, Dutton is working. He's working inside Chris Foley's office.
That's right, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah, he is. He's landed himself a cushy little 170,000 or whatever, 130, whatever it was. He's working for Chris Foley, and I think that's where Chris Foley's getting his bullish attitude from, right? And I don't think the Australian public are going to put up with it. I think they're trying to condition us to put up with it. And
look-
I think
Look what happened to Campbell Newman, right? He won a record haul, and within that first term, he's out in his ass. Right?
gone. Has anyone else got anything to say on this?
Little thing
Can
here
I
I've
just
got-
say, we've taken on too much. Don't talk after each other, and we're all like a bit dry.
No, it's good. Oh, it's all right. I think it's fine. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else happened this week that's not politics that was funny?
Well, I wanna
You're not allowed to
say-
tell a 15-minute story.
No, I want to say, look at what I'm wearing.
Oh,
I've been
what happened?
bullied by you three into not wearing my party shirt. I am devastated.
Hey, it was
Seriously.
only one of us, and the guy's wearing a felony hat. I like the shirt, right?
So did
I
I.
like the shirt. Brings out
Don't
your
lie.
eyes.
Seriously.
Mate.
I'm not coming on here, mate. If you don't bring that shirt back, I'm out of here. Seriously.
Just, excuse me.
No,
He's gonna take his shirt
off. no, we're going to get his kid off.
Play the
Here we
saxophone
go.
music.
How are we going? That's I've got the shirt.
I love,
Righto.
I love a bit of red on a shirt, mate.
Righto, gentlemen, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it around, and jump onto our Facebook pages, say good day, but comment down below here. Thanks very much for joining us on The Open View.
Cheers, all.
You know, say bye, Bellaries.
I thought he was going to strip off for a minute
I'm
and
not
get in his
me without the
mankini.
shirt.
There's dust on the road and noise in the air. Truth gets buried when the loud don't care. So for the saddle up, riding straight and true. Bella Frackman, snarky, G-man riding through.